film. Let me explain the controversy.
It all started with this short video of two boys in a schoolyard scuffle. One of the boys is white and English, and the other boy is a Syrian refugee. Now, at first glance, you might say, well, what's going on here? One boy is holding the other down and pouring water on him. And if you're a really rational person, you might ask yourself, well, why is this happening? And you might want to know just a little more about the context of the situation. But the mainstream British media isn't rational, and they didn't ask any of those questions. No, what they did is they immediately took this video and ran with the global headline, "White Racist Bully Waterboards a Poor Syrian Refugee," while at the same time painting the Syrian boy as a little angel who never bothered a soul. And people like Piers Morgan even called for the retribution against the English boy.
Everybody was exposing the scumbag that did this, who I hope gets severe retribution.
A teenager with his whole life ahead of him until it was ruined by people like Piers, who didn't do their due diligence before condemning him to the entire world, to the point that the boy even became suicidal and had grown Muslim gangs with machetes out in the streets looking for him. In fact, his entire family had to go into hiding because of these irresponsible media reports. So this is where Tommy Robinson comes in. Being familiar with the leftist media in this country and their tendency to twist reality into whatever shape necessary to fit their leftist agenda, he began a massive investigation to find the facts about the incident in the video. And what he found is really shocking. According to witnesses, the Syrian refugee was no angel at all. He had a long history of bullying young girls and even physically assaulting multiple children. He beat one girl with a hockey stick, requiring her to take pain medication for the long-term back injury he caused. He bit another English girl on the head while she was being beaten by other Muslim girls. One boy said that he was stabbed by the Syrian refugee with a compass, and his school records even indicated he was caught with a knife and a screwdriver. Another boy said the Syrian would attack him almost daily anytime he saw him. He called grown women fat white bitches and was often put into detention for his behavior. And do you see this blue cast on his arm? Witnesses say that he got that injury because he, at the age of 15, was punching a 12-year-old kid in the face repeatedly until another kid threw him off the boy and caused the injury. But what about this image, the one that started it all? Well, as it turns out, the Syrian boy had threatened to rape the English boy's 9-year-old sister earlier. And this was their big brother taking up for them. I think a lot of people would have probably done more than splash him with a little water if that's the case. Now, as shocking as all this may be, it's not nearly as shocking as what the school did to hide all of this negative information about the Syrian boy from the public once the mainstream narrative had taken hold. It's the reason that none of the witnesses that I mentioned before came forward, because Tommy Robinson found through his investigation that the school spent £250,000 paying off the witnesses who all signed non-disclosure agreements to never talk about any of it. Now, why didn't the rest of the mainstream media report that to you? But it gets worse. The family of the Syrian boy ended up suing Tommy for revealing what he'd found out in his investigation as a journalist. And the judge in the case ruled in their favor, costing Tommy millions. Even when multiple witnesses in the case did come forward, teachers, students, respected members of the community, the judge said that all of them were lying and the Syrian boy was telling the truth. The court then ordered an injunction against Tommy playing the documentary he'd made, silenced, so that no one could ever hear the full story.
This rush to judgment had dire consequences for the boy, whose life quickly spiraled into turmoil. Reports of suicidal thoughts emerged, and threats from local gangs forced him and his family into hiding. The media's failure to investigate further led to a narrative that painted the English boy as a scumbag undermining his dignity and well-being. Amidst this chaos, Tommy Robinson took it upon himself to uncover the truth behind the incident. Familiar with the media's tendency to manipulate narratives, he launched a thorough investigation. What he found was startling. The Syrian refugee had a history of bullying, including violent incidents involving other children. Witnesses reported that he had physically assaulted multiple students and had a pattern of aggressive behavior. Robinson's findings raised serious questions about the portrayal of the Syrian boy in the media. For instance, accounts revealed that he had previously threatened to rape the English boy's younger sister, a significant detail that was largely ignored in the mainstream narrative. This revelation shifted the context considerably, suggesting that the altercation was not as one-sided as originally presented. What followed was even more alarming. Robinson discovered that the school had invested a substantial amount, reportedly £250,000, in silencing witnesses through non-disclosure agreements. This tactic effectively concealed crucial information from the public and further distorted the truth surrounding the incident. The lack of transparency raises questions about the school's motives and the broader implications of protecting a narrative at the expense of truth. The situation escalated when the family of the Syrian boy sued Robinson for exposing these findings. In a surprising turn of events, the court ruled in favor of the family, despite the testimony of multiple witnesses, including teachers and community members. The judge dismissed their claims, asserting that the Syrian boy was telling the truth, and issued an injunction preventing Robinson from screening his documentary, Silenced. This ruling not only cost Robinson millions, but also stifled public discourse on the matter. Faced with a difficult choice, Tommy Robinson had to decide whether to comply with the court's injunction or to stand up for what he believed to be right. His decision to screen the film, despite the legal repercussions, underscores his commitment to giving a voice to those who have been wronged. For this act of defiance, Robinson now faces the possibility of a 2 to 4 year prison sentence in Belmarsh, the UK's most maximum security prison. The case of Tommy Robinson serves as a stark reminder of the power of media narratives and the consequences of rushed judgments. It highlights the vital importance of thorough investigation and accountability, particularly when it comes to matters involving vulnerable individuals. As the public, we must demand transparency and integrity from our media outlets and seek to understand the complexities behind sensational headlines. As Robinson's story unfolds, it becomes increasingly evident that the fight for truth and justice is not just about one individual, it is about the very principles that govern free speech and the right to defend oneself against unjust accusations. The broader implications of this case resonate far beyond the UK, challenging us all to reflect on the narratives we accept and the impact they have on our society.